We're your hosts,
Aaron Bacus
and Jason Kindler.
We like to sit down with our guests to hear their journey, their challenges, and how they impact the local community.
So grab a seat, tune in, and let's get inspired by Jacksonville's everyday workforce.
Welcome to Hometown Jacks.
Welcome to Hometown Jacks. Today I'm here with Robin Pfalzgraf. I said it right.
Very good.
Yeah,
Very
good. So Robin is with Jacksonville Community Land Trust. And man, I have read through your background. I've read a little bit about, what the Community Land Trust does. And it's just another awesome guest today that we have with us, that somebody that's really making an impact in an organization that's really making an impact in Jacksonville. So thank you for being on today.
Thank you.
I would, if you don't mind, I'm going to read a little bit about your passion that you told us, because I think it's awesome. And let's start this way. So you told us, my passion lies in empowering people who are often overlooked by providing them to safe, affordable homes. And there's more to that, but Jacksonville has become a little bit more expensive. Well, maybe a lot more expensive.
It's very expensive when you come from the Midwest. It's very,
no
very
doubt.
expensive.
Yeah. Where are you from?
I'm from Iowa. Pella, Iowa, the home of Pella windows.
Okay.
Most people in construction know that.
So tell us a little bit about your background. Like what got you to here?
Okay. Well, I did kind of a lot of things when I was very young, but ended up having 5 children of my own and stayed home with them for a while. And I remember the day I said, I cannot make this same bed. I cannot pick up this same pair of underwear off the floor again. And I took a job in a nonprofit that was, I say we kind of just helped everyone with everything.
Okay.
Anybody walked in and we tried to help.
Yep.
And through that, I started kind of falling in the niche of housing. And people come in and say, you're the only one that can help us find housing. Now, I really wasn't the only one, but whether it be getting a HUD voucher or, just helping them figure out a place to live. So that became kind of my specialty.
Okay.
And with that, served on a Habitat for Humanity board. Yep. Then I was offered a job with a Habitat for Humanity. And I always say I ran my Habitat for Humanity different than anybody knows Habitat. Okay. I was kind of a rule breaker with Habitat, and developed some strong feelings about what we should do to help people.
Okay.
And how we should provide that housing and what price points. So I was very happy doing that, praying that maybe I kind of got that affiliate cleaned up per se. We were doing well financially. We were producing more. And one day, I honestly just said, I want to do one more big thing before I retire.
Okay.
And lo and behold, I get a call from a recruiter, and it's for the job running the Land Trust.
Okay.
Land Trust was introduced through Habitat to me because Habitats on the coast are finding it impossible to put affordable housing on property that costs a fortune.
Yep.
So when I heard it through Habitat, I kind of rolled my eyes and said, oh, that's silly. And then when I interviewed for the job here and I had done some research, I'm like, hey, this is making sense to me. And so that, there's several key components to Land Trust, but I bought in. And hence, my husband and I have 8 together, and we left our kids in the Midwest and we moved to Jacksonville.
Wow.
So.
And what year was that?
23. Actually, we packed up a car the day after Christmas in 22.
Okay.
And I moved downtown for about 6 months. And I would like to tell you, my husband missed me so much. But we had somebody come and ask if we would be willing to sell our house. And we said, okay, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it.
Let's do it. Let's
and
go.
We did it. And so he relocated here as well.
That's awesome. So how has everything been in your transition to Jacksonville?
My personal transition?
Yeah.
Good. I mean, I'm happy we're here.
Yeah.
There have been things that have been a little harder than I thought. I said I feel like country mouse goes to the big city because there have been some things that have been different than I expected. But I will tell you, I'm learning in Jacksonville, for the size of the city, it's still small.
Very small.
And we see the same people and meet some fantastic people. And so I'm very honored to be in the company of some really wonderful people.
Well, what you're doing in the organization, which we'll get into, I mean, it's definitely impactful.
Well, thank you for saying that.
Definitely impactful. And Jacksonville's grown, tremendously over the last 15 years. But there's more businesses coming in. There's a lot happening, and we've got more coming. Got a stadium coming. Got some fun stuff coming. So. Nonprofit work. Why nonprofit work?
So before I did anything, I was a licensed foster parent. My parents were foster parents. So I say I started very young relating to people that lived, crisis is probably accurate.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And grew to say, I really like these families. Have they done something that's gotten them here? Yes. But I really was behind the reunification with children and their parents, and grew to love that kind of community. Through that, and then working in the nonprofit industry, just in my general helps, started seeing the value in everybody. People that we would literally step over on the sidewalk became so important to me, and I've adopted that I don't care who you are, everybody has a story. And so as I got to know the story, I would realize why people are homeless, why people need help, why people can't buy groceries, and grew to love that. So it's just that I kind of ended up in this specialty of housing. But in general, if I could do anything, it would be just help people with what I have the connection or power
I can
to do
feel
that.
it just from, I mean, that's that servant heart.
Yeah, I love it. That's how I live. And I just believe in the end, we all come out in the same. It doesn't matter how much money or how little money, in the end, we're all the same. And we need to value people that otherwise we don't see.
So good. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
That's
my
really,
pleasure.
really awesome. So, I mean, obviously you had this, I can tell you had the servant heart. And so what led you to housing? What was the point that kind of led you to housing?
The reason it became my specialty is I wouldn't take no for an answer.
Oh, nice.
And so it started out, now homeless population in the Midwest is very different than homeless population in Jacksonville.
Okay.
So as I started helping people, and it was literally, I could help everyone because it wasn't so many. Mm-hmm. I would start making phone calls and say, they need a voucher. Well, Robin, it's 3 months. Back in the Midwest, it was 3 to 6 months, not 5 years like it is here. Mm-hmm. And I would say, well, what do we do to get that moved up? And so then they started saying, okay, with relationship, and I coin everything my own phrase, and I called it Section 8 on the site section based. I developed relationship with those people that were running those sites. And I didn't call them for everything, so they knew when I called that they really needed it. And honestly, we could have someone from homelessness to housed in a week. Wow. And that kind of started developing my reputation. And again, it's not because I'm very nice, it's because I was very insistent. And so then I started saying, for the people who had lived in rental their whole life, that their dream was to own a house. I'm like, well, why can't you own a house?
Sure.
And that's how that kind of started. So, and I don't believe there's one organization that's right for everyone. So when I ran Habitat for Humanity, we helped people when they came in. USDA mortgages are big in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. And I would say, well, maybe we're not for you, but let me have my person at the USDA talk to you. Yep. And then I would facilitate paperwork to get them to USDA qualification. So we really became kind of a clearinghouse for how to get people in housing. And again,
that's awesome. So if you were someone that didn't know where to turn, if they were lucky enough to get to you, if it didn't work out here, you were finding them, alternatives to that.
And we would do that
awesome.
For even emergency housing.
Yep.
And so one of my gentlemen, I'll tell you quick, walked in and he was homeless. He was from the Philippines. Uh-huh. and his family was still there. And within 2 days, we had him in a rooming. It was an own apartment, but it was an efficiency.
Sure.
Put him to partner with the church. The gentleman in the church really coached him into how to become stable, working towards a plan to get his family here. And today, he's working in Denver. He's got a great job at the airport, and his whole family has relocated to the States.
That's so awesome.
So to me, even though that's not a win for my agency, that's a win. I consider that a win.
I got chills.
We have a guy. Well, good.
Yeah.
Good.
I got chills.
Because when we can help people, it's a win for all of us. It's a win for the community.
Everybody, everybody needs somebody, but everybody needs an opportunity.
Yes.
Yes. And those are great stories like that, where somebody got the opportunity without you, they wouldn't, maybe have been able to do that. And now you look, at what that one thing changed their life.
I never took no for an answer. Mm-hmm. I say I have family from Brooklyn. We didn't take no for an answer. But there were. I found a gap in, for example, people coming out of prison because they didn't qualify for vouchers. Yep. So even if the list was short, they couldn't get in. So I remember being at I don't know how I even ended up there at the Finance Authority in Des Moines, and said, "Wait a minute. These people deserve housing. We're leaving them out of prison with these huge fines and saying, oh, by the way, you're released today, but you owe $150,000 in restitution and you can't get housing, and don't screw up or you're going back to prison."
Right.
And I said, you got to figure out something better. And so that's kind of how, it's not because Robin was so great. Maybe Robin was just the loudest in the room.
They can go to many different lessons.
Yeah.
Many different industries and things like that. So that's awesome. Tell me about Jacksonville Community Land Trust, and then tell me about the organization, and then kind of what separates you guys from other organizations.
I will say, in this huge city of great nonprofits, we are one piece of the puzzle. And what the Land Trust does that's a little different than everybody else is we retain ownership of the dirt under our individuals or families' houses. And think of it like a condominium.
Yep.
When you live in a condo or a townhouse, you don't own the dirt, you own the structure.
Sure.
That's really the same way we're set up.
Okay.
So with that, the dirt is tax-free or tax-exempt. Thank you, State of Florida, for passing the Live Local Act. So with that, people only pay tax on their house. Now, most of our property right now is in the urban core, not expensive property, but even taking some of that weight off of them is
Sure.
help. The other thing that we do that nobody else does in Jacksonville is permanent affordability. So we hear a lot about gentrification here in Jacksonville, and we're seeing it. We see it on the east side starting. We see it in Springfield. And the thought behind putting a land trust here is that in every community, someone of lower income will be able to live there, and that will be an option. So if the land trust has 10 houses in a community, you wait till one of those 10 houses may come available, and you can live right here. We also then have there's a special formula when they resell, but we also, as we retain ownership of the land lease, we have it set up that never a realtor or an investor can buy the property. It has to be sold to someone in the same situation as you.
Got it.
So if you can
That's
leave,
awesome.
You can leave that property to your children. So I say, if your child goes to medical school and becomes a doctor and they want to live in the family house, they can do that. But once it gets sold out of the immediate family, you have to meet the criteria of that you had going in at 80% or
Sure.
less than the median. So I'm excited about that. As we just start here, the theory is that our families won't stay in the house as long. I think our families will stay there long. So that's part of our piece. I say Robin is putting the squeeze on developers to take their product and come down in price,
Yep.
because we have to sell below market rate. And I'm pretty excited about where that squeeze has gotten us.
Good.
And so payments for us will be less, I think, than average affordable housing. But you have those expectations. We also put in the land lease that you have to maintain your property to look nice and decent in your neighborhood. Doesn't mean you can't leave your bikes out.
Right.
Doesn't mean you can't have, your neighbor park in your driveway once in a while or anything like that. But it's just the attitude of we're helping you step up. And we want this to be for the community. And I will tell you, as I think about the land trust and pray about the land trust, I think we're as much community as individual. My favorite part of this job is when I go into a neighborhood and I'm at a lot and one of the neighbors says, "Hey, what are you doing over there?" And I start to talk to them about their neighborhood, because I will tell you, I can't tell you one person off the top of my head that said, "I want to get out of here." It's always, "I really want to stay in this neighborhood." And so I feel like we're the first piece in helping form community and start helping the people in the community as a whole. And if they want to have input on what we put on that house, I'm happy to hear it.
That's awesome.
So, if they, in fact, a couple weeks ago, a nephew of the neighbor was outside and he said, "I really want to live here. I've moved to Orange Park, but I really want to be here." And I said, "Okay, tell me where you are. Tell me what you're at. Tell me what income. We haven't developed this yet.
Yeah.
We can try to build it for him."
Oh, that's so cool. Custom build.
Custom build.
Within reason.
Yeah, we're learning that it's not carte blanche, but it is, if we're building a house that's a smaller model, 650 square feet, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, because a lot of the people that walk in our office are 20-something-year-olds and seniors. Most affordable housing programs are built around a family of 4, per se, and why not give a 20-something-year-old a step up?
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's pretty cool. What's going on? How many homes are being built?
Every day this is different, but right now our first projects are a duplex and a single family that will be rental. The reason those are getting done first was it was money awarded to us from the city of Jacksonville under the Emergency Rental Assistance Program.
Okay.
Old COVID money that's being spent up. So we're building those first. And then as soon as those are done, which will be September, we will start construction on 3 more to sell. We have one that is going to be done at September that we will sell. I'm working with Lift Jacks on a project. I talked to him before I came in today. So if we can find developers, we could have 90 projects going today.
Really?
So
to find the developers, there's there's criteria that have to be met. How is that going?
Again, flows like this. The best case for the land trust is to have a developer come in who's got the capacity to build it, finance it, until closing.
Yep.
We will bring in the homeowner.
Sure.
That's not always the case.
Yep.
And that's why the projects the land trust is guiding are circular. So we have to build a couple, sell those, build a couple more. And we believe that'll grow as people see our product.
Yep.
But overall, we're talking to everybody who wants to talk to us.
Okay.
Some want to build a product we can't endorse. It's not against them. It just doesn't fit our model.
Okay.
So, but in general, we want to work with you and help you build.
So hopefully that's that as the word gets out, as that you'll have more and more developers want to step into that.
Yeah, and remember, with all that, they're getting the squeeze from me.
Of course, yeah.
Charge them as low as you can and make it quality build. One thing I have learned in affordable housing, whether it be rental, and I'm going to say my friend Shannon Nadsworth says, "Stop calling it affordable, call it attainable." And that's really accurate.
I like that.
What's affordable for you may not be affordable for me. So to get houses done in that 80% or less, to make some money, because I don't expect any developer not to make
Sure.
any money. That's not fair. But to make that and make it quality, it's very easy to cut on quality. And I'm always insistent we not like, it doesn't have to be fancy,
Sure.
but the quality has to be good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, how do you determine the families that? What's the qualification for families?
For the land trust, we just want to know your income.
Got it.
That's all we don't screen for anything else. Once their income is at 80% or not or lower, we refer them to Wealth Watchers.
Okay.
Wealth Watchers puts them through the 8 hours of new homeowner education, which is required for almost every down payment assistance program, and it's required for the land trust. They get you mortgage ready. Not everybody wants to finance a land trust house. I think because it's new, they don't have to, So we refer them then to lenders that will
Sure.
finance land trust. And once they say you're qualified, we're going to try to figure out how to get you home.
It's awesome. Very cool. In regards to this, the mission of, let's call it attainable housing.
That's right.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that from a,
Yeah.
sounds a lot.
She's a smart woman. I need to follow her.
Yeah, I like it. But with attainable housing, so government leaders, the people of Jacksonville, have they been receptive to it?
Some yes.
Some yes.
Some no.
Okay.
I came here it was a very different mindset. Running this kind of program in the Midwest, we just need to give you truly affordable, decent housing. And that was it. And I came here and they're like, building wealth. And I'm like, well, sure, it comes with it, but are we building wealth? So when I started getting some negative feedback from some government officials saying, well, you're not building wealth, I'm like, well, I've got to solve this problem. How can we build wealth? And so I started asking around. And Clayton King is on my board.
Yep.
And Clayton,
He's awesome.
I said, Clayton, if we're saving people $500 a month over rent, and they're going to own, that frees up $500 liquid income a month. What if they invested $100 and just comes out of their bank account and they invest? How much can they have at the end of, say you start at 25, you end at 65. And he threw a number out and he goes, it'd be better if they could do 150, because 150 would, based on low end estimates, would put that person at having $500,000 at retirement. And I'm like, okay, now you're talking.
Yep.
Now you're talking what I can understand. And so I'm like, but that still gives them $350 a month where they have fluid income. They can buy a car. They can go to the grocery store,
Sure.
as we've seen in the last couple of years. And I started, as I'm thinking this through, I'm like, when your budget gets tight, and you can't afford groceries, you can have hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity in your house, but no one is going to advise them to go take a mortgage or a second mortgage so they can buy groceries. Sure. But now we're doing both. We're freeing up that liquid income so you can buy those groceries. We're giving you an avenue. We're not investment bankers.
Sure.
We're not, but we can say, here are people that can help you with that. You have an answer to that, and you're still going to be ahead. I'm hoping $500 is minimum of what our people will save. But we'll see when people are moving in what it comes to be.
That's a huge, $500 is big. It's big to anyone. If you're saving $500 a month on what normally would be your payments, that's a big deal.
That's $6,000 a year. And you go, am I doing my math right? I'm doing finances in my head, garbage guy. But that's a lot of money. And again, just the pressure off.
Yep.
Just to say, rent was more expensive than this. I own this home. I tell people all the time, when you rent, most landlords aren't going to allow you to paint your bedroom pink.
Yep.
Right? If you want to do that in your own home, you can do that. Please don't paint the outside pink. But if you paint your bedroom pink, it'd be good. But you have those things. You can do what you want. Again, we just govern what you do outside.
Yeah.
We just govern the dirt. So you have options with home ownership in so many ways, and it's yours.
We'll get back to the story in just a second, but while you're listening, here's something you should know if you live in Northeast Florida. If you're self-employed and trying to buy a home, it's not as hard as you might think. We work with business owners, freelancers, and creatives every single day. People who don't fit the traditional housing molds, and we're here to let you know that we have real loan programs that make homeownership possible. We've helped tons of local business owners and creatives get approved using flexible loan options that work for them and their business. First Coast Mortgage Funding is proud to sponsor Hometown Jacks right here in Jacksonville.
It's the and I still believe in it as time has gone on, the quote unquote American dream. Some people have said, oh, that's not alive anymore. I'm like, that feeling of home ownership, and there is a wealth part of that too. But I like the fact that you're educating the person that, hey, take the $150.
You didn't see it before. You don't have to see it now.
No.
And that's going to grow and grow and grow. And so, again, okay, give me another challenge. I'm going to try to figure out how we can beat that. And so I'm very excited about that. I'm excited. Wealth Watchers has been a great support in saying, we're going to make sure they hear it. And again, things I've learned in this, you have to tell people before they can, you have somebody walk in the door who's never had or thought they had an opportunity to own a house. They may have had it, but they don't know that they have it. And we're saying, here's a lender that'll let you in with zero down. Here's a lender who will let you go 2% below market rate. Mm-hmm. Here's a lender. So all those pieces get you a home that you own for a reasonable price.
Yep.
And a reasonable payment.
Yeah, that's awesome. So several roles that you've had. You've turned around nonprofits financially. How do you approach this project as far as financial sustainability?
Yeah, I think about this every single day. And in fact, the other day I was with a friend and said, how do you not feel like we need to take a cut? Because I'll tell you, the first thing we all think is, okay, developer, you're taking your cut, contractors, you're taking your cut, now the land trust is going to take their cut, and then all of a sudden you've got a house that's double in price. Mm-hmm. I won't tell you that there won't be at some point we're taking a modest cut.
Sure.
But just to sustain us,
Yep.
My goal is to figure out how to sustain us without taking a cut from our homeowners. I think so often we put burden on people that we shouldn't be burdening. I'll tell you a miracle story. We went through a little challenge of what I projected coming into 25. And I'm like, okay, Lord, I don't know how this is going to work. And how am I going to get paid? And I moved here because I got paid. And what happens? And I got a call from Chase Bank. Chase Bank said, Robin, I want to talk to you about supporting the land trust. And I said, oh, would you like to build a house and, blah, blah, blah. And they said, no, we want to help you with your administrative costs for the year 2025. And it was a substantial help, and it will get us through 2025. And that's just kind of how I live.
So good.
I pray it into being, and somehow
Manifest it.
God always makes it right. Now, I do ask him to not make it last minute and to give me a plan. It's never quite worked that way. But I think that when people see what we're doing,
Yeah.
they'll say, we want to support you because we agree with that.
Yeah.
Don't put it on the backs of the people that are lower income.
I love that.
So
And
how that's going to be, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I'm trusting.
Well, kudos to Chase.
Yeah, kudos to Chase. And we've had some organizations that have helped us. Jesse Ball DuPont has helped us so much. And I tell you, I almost get teary when I think about it because their generosity has been so extreme to help us get that leg up. Mari, the president of Jesse Ball DuPont, I've become a big fan of hers. She's very soft-spoken to my loud and obnoxious, but she is such a good heart. And we've agreed since I was hired that when people start seeing what we're doing, they're going to want to invest in the land trust. Mm-hmm. I'm working right now on encouraging people to get a house built, and either your money can continue to work, house to house to house. If somebody gave us $200,000 and we built a house, and our high-end house is $200,000, where we expect it to be, once that mortgage is taken over, we're just going to invest that again and build and build and build and build. You know, I'm trying to think of a quippy way to say your money keeps working.
Right.
Your money keeps working. And that's how I look at it, is the investment once could be an investment 10 times.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So community involvement is is something that is definitely a big part. I mean, it seems like it has been, but that hopefully, as more word gets out there and you're helping more families, that will continue to go.
I really would like to see us get to a point where every homeowner that would like to do it. Some people just want to close on their house and please don't ever bother me again. And, and I'm in my house, leave me alone. But for people that want a relationship in the community of somebody that can, we've all had the first time our toilet broke, or our pipe started leaking. And if you come from generations where people have been renters, you can't just call your dad and say, okay, what do you do? Because he's going to say, call the landlord.
Right.
Don't call the land trust. But if we can find a relationship to help build, to develop that so you have that person,
Yep.
that's a win.
That's another layer of it.
Oh, yes. I better live
awesome.
like 25, 30, 40 more years to get all this done. But, you set your vision high and then you work towards your vision.
Yeah. And a guy that I many years ago told me, he said, hey, you don't adjust your goals, adjust your efforts.
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you that. You're shooting for the stars. That's awesome.
I'm shooting for the stars. And again, I think in the way the world is changing, I think we need to stop looking at it. If I have a job to do, so I'm just going to build 50 houses.
Yep.
The other day, as I was thinking about it and kind of trying to think of a campaign in the future, many of us build houses and put people in it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to meet the people and build the house. And I think that's part of how we're different.
Yeah. Very cool. Love that. What's your vision for Jacksonville housing? Like, what do you think it looks like in the next 5 years?
It's so funny. I called the new director for the Housing Authority, and I said, here's an apartment complex. It's abandoned. You need to make a call to Washington, D.C. And she said, Robin, that's not my wheelhouse. I'm like, but you have power. Call Washington, D.C. and tell them. These people, So I am still astonished 2.5 years later that the voucher list is 5 years long. Because what is that? I'm going to say the atypical woman who finds herself single with children overnight. She's escaping a domestic abuse. Oh, in 5 years, we'll get you a place to live.
Tell for people that don't, what is the voucher?
The voucher is an assistance on your housing, and I know to throw the terms around, and I know to say they need a voucher. But what the voucher does is, let's say your maximum housing expense could be $500 based on your income. Mm-hmm. Well, we all know you can't rent anywhere in Jacksonville for $500. So when you get a voucher, they give you a maximum rent you can pay. And so let's just say it's $1,500, and that's just Robin throwing out a number. But let's say you can have a $1,500 housing. You have to pay $500, but HUD will help you pay the other $1,000. Mm-hmm. And that's how the voucher works. And everybody's voucher is different, and it changes as their income changes. So
what you're telling me is that somebody's in a situation like you mentioned, 5 years.
Mm-hmm. 5 years, they wait. Here in Jacksonville, 5 years.
How does that compare to, I mean, I know like in Iowa, but like, how does that compare to, is that all of Florida, or is that
I don't believe it's all of Florida.
Okay.
I think it's probably this way in all the big metropolis areas. But like I said, where I come from, it's 3 to 6 months max.
Wow.
So the voucher system, again, if I made the rules everywhere, would be different.
Yeah.
But it just isn't right.
Is it a matter of funding for Jacksonville? Is that what it is?
They can only fund so many vouchers.
Okay. And is it a waiting list? Is it just that's the?
It's a waiting list, I
Okay.
think. And again, you talk to somebody who's smarter than me, but it is a waiting list, and they get on the list. And I will always tell the story. I was early on at the land trust, and 2 young couples came in the door. And so I'm trying to absorb, how are you here? What are you looking for? Whatever. And each one had one child and one had two children. And they came in together because they lived in the same apartment complex, and their rent at lease signing went up $500. One jump, $500. And I'm like, oh, it'll be a year before we start seeing these homes materialize. And one of the women worked full-time at Amazon, and one woman worked full-time at Walmart. And to be honest with you, I don't remember what their partners did, but they had already started working staggered shifts so they didn't have to pay daycare. And so that's hard on a relationship.
Of course.
To not ever see each other.
Right.
And I said, well, what will you do for the year that you wait? And they said, well, we'll be living in our car. And I said, oh, come on, you guys. Now, don't you have a family member that was... And they're like, no, we will live in our car.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, when I get an Amazon delivery, that person could be living in their car. When I go, I'll even say as like to the courthouse and have to have papers filed, that person could be living in their car. That's wrong. That's wrong. And so, personally, I don't think more vouchers is the answer. I think we help people find housing they can afford. That's decent.
Yeah.
And give them an opportunity. Everybody doesn't want to own a home. Fantastic. We'll help you find what works for you. But that's why it's so critical here. It's not a luxury here. It's a necessity.
That, and I think you look at it, I grew up in Ohio, much different.
You Midwestern guy.
Yeah. Much different than, Florida, the coast. I mean, there's, of course you have your, luxury of Florida, you have your luxury, but there's a whole nother side to it.
Yeah.
There's a whole nother side to Jacksonville. There's a whole nother side that we need to step up and figure that part out. Because,
some people would say, I've had some interesting experiences being downtown, but I have met some of the most incredible people. And the other day I was in what would probably be considered one of the most questionable areas, maybe is the way to say it. And I'm looking at a lot, and the neighbor calls me over. And he is a lovely man. And he starts telling me that he's been a chef on the beaches for a long time. And if I remember right, Jamaica was his home. And he says, can I show you what I do? And I said, sure. And he pulls out his phone and he sends me these pictures of how he takes a lot of watermelons and he makes these beautiful centerpieces. And I'm like, I know people that would pay anything to have this as their centerpiece on their table. And I'm like, we do ourselves a disservice not going in those areas and not learning who these people are, because these are great, hardworking people. And they're so kind and they're so loving. And they let me know if anything's happening on my properties for land trust that shouldn't be happening. Yeah. And so you form that great relationship, and people that I'm honored to say I've met.
You're awesome.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, you're awesome. That's really awesome. We talked a little bit about the HUD vouchers. Is there any programs or policies that you believe that could change the way that affordable housing is handled?
Well, I've always said if they took it out of the hands of the government and put nonprofits like I've run, is every nonprofit above board? Nope, they're not. But if you find the people like me who say, I want to eat and I want to have a place to live, but in general, it isn't a goal of living in the fancy schmancy office. We just want to pour this back into the people. We want to massively build and provide these opportunities. And, again, if I could make decisions, I would sell the mortgages at 0%. Now, know that I'm a 1/10% of people that see that, but having that time in my career where I could do 0%, I left the Midwest with people getting 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2,500 square feet, and their payments were $500. Wow. If I could do it, if I could figure out how to do it, But, in order to do that, you have to have many millions of dollars to start floating mortgages like that. And again, as I sit here today, do I know how that would happen? I have no clue. Do I think God can make a way for that to happen? I do. And so if we could take all that red tape out of the way, we could do something big.
You never know.
And there's a day I wouldn't have thought I was sitting here in Jacksonville, Florida, because I would have said the Midwest is fine. I've got it easy now.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. You like challenges.
Some days.
Some days.
Some days I go, I had it so good. I went to my affiliate at Habitat, and I got hired, and I had looked at the 990, and it said they had $2 million in assets. And I said to my husband, for the first time in my career, this is easy peasy. I'm starting with $2 million. Well, I get in, and they're like, Robin, that's the asset of mortgages. And I'm like, oh. And I said, can I see the financials? And there was $14,000 in the bank, and they had 5, I think, employees. I'm like, crap. In fact, I went home and said, I don't know if I'll get one paycheck. And I left with $2 million to build houses, locked up in financing and ability to do it. And so I say, Lord, I need that ability here because the need is so much greater. So whatever way he makes the way, he'll make the way.
I like that. I like the approach. I like the attitude.
Thank you.
It's awesome. What drives you?
I'll tell you a funny story. When I was working in the nonprofit, they used to make fun of me and my friend, the drug dealers, because there was a lot of people that had been in prison and, stuff used to come. And I befriended them, and I was very frank with them. And it's probably, they thought of me probably like a mom or a sister. They took a lot of crap from me they wouldn't take from just anyone. But years went on, and I had left that nonprofit, and I had hired a construction crew to redo a bathroom in my house. And I walked in after work, and there was one of the people that I had helped standing in my kitchen. And I was like, Scott, what are you doing here in my kitchen? And he came, and he hugged me, and he lifted me off the ground and said, I can't tell you how much you've helped me. And I realized it was my honor to help him. Now, I would lie to you if I said, and he lived happily ever after, and he never got in trouble again,
Sure.
Because that would not be true. But the ability to learn someone and learn their story is a huge honor. And I can't tell you what it's like when somebody stops you and says, you helped change my life. I'm just the instrument to do that. It's not Robin. I'm the instrument. I'm honored to be in the position to do that. But when you see what it can do for one, you want to do it for 100. And so
That's awesome.
That's what it is.
I think I think out of a lot of guests that we had, that is your passion just beams through, and what a great way to live. So thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
What's been one of the most surprising lessons or things that has happened since you've taken over your position?
Okay, I'm going to tell you the story about being over by Moncrief.
Yep.
I was there, and I bought a new car when I moved here, and it was like the first fancy schmancy car I really ever owned. And I'm there, and my son's on the phone talking to me over the speaker, and I get a knock on my door.
Yep.
And so I open the door, and there's a young kid, probably younger than my son. And he says, got a line? I said, excuse me? And he says, got a line? I said, young man, if you don't think I know what that means, I do. And no, I don't have a line, and your mother wouldn't want you to have a line either. And he goes, I'm so sorry. And he left, and I was giggling. The lady who works in my office was there, and I'm like, why would he ever ask me that? And she said, Robin, you're driving a drug dealer car.
Yeah.
And I started laughing. I said, the drug dealers and Robin. But I think it was funny, and I'll always remember it. But I also think how sad, because he was somebody's child. The day he was born, his mom saw great potential and great vision. And I think it says we all need to work together to not give him a line and to say, you are valuable. And I never thought that someone would ever ask me that. I didn't think I looked like the drug dealer type, but it's here. It's everywhere. And it makes me sad.
Yeah.
That was surprising.
That is surprising. I love what you said though about, the sometimes we all look at, people, whether they're, drug dealer in prison, whatever the past is, and, it doesn't always have to continue.
Yeah.
And
everybody, every day, everybody has a fresh start. And, I've learned through all of this, making people feel valued can help them change that.
Yeah.
And again, like I could write a book over stories I've had happen. And
you have a lot of stories.
I have.
You should. It sounds like a book. I mean, this sounds like an opportunity to commit to a book.
Well, it doesn't. I'll tell you one day. I had a ministry where we took donated furniture and brought it to people who need it. So if somebody called and said, "I need a couch," and you called me and said, "I have a couch to donate," we literally would go to your house, pick it up, and we bring it to them. And doing this, I used to do a lot of community service hours. So one day I'm driving, I have an old Yukon, I'm driving the Yukon, and I looked and I'm like, I have 3 rows of seats, and everybody in this car but me is a felon. And I started laughing, and they're like, Robin, what's up? And I said, I'm just laughing because if somebody had told me when I was 25 and home with kids that I would have a car full of you gentlemen, I would have never believed it.
Right.
And yet I love you all.
Yeah.
And one of those guys said, Robin, can I tell you something? And I said, yeah. And he goes, I'm the reason they have sporks in prison in Iowa. And I said, what? He goes, yeah, I stabbed a guy with a fork and now we went to sporks. And I'm like, I don't think I would brag about that.
Oh, that's
but,
funny.
it's like things you don't expect.
Yeah.
But in the end, they're the most rewarding things of your life.
That's awesome.
So.
You're a great soul.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah, you're a great soul. So how can people get involved with
The Land Trust?
the Land Trust?
Again, Robin would love to see us use volunteers on construction. We just can't. We're not there yet.
Okay.
But, or maybe ever, depending on who you ask. But we always need dollars.
Okay.
Dollars will help us build. Building houses will help us get people housed. But prayer, too. I'll be honest, I have lived a life seeing the power of prayer, and I would say if you commit to pray, we're going to see that stuff happen. If everybody just invests in one person, the city would change. Mm-hmm. So I'd encourage people to do that. Awesome.
Well, we're going to put, we'll have the website, things like that people can get involved in. And I just want to thank you for sharing, and hopefully that'll, that our broadcast will reach people. But man, you're an awesome person. You've done tremendous things. You continue, and now we're so happy to have you in Jacksonville. Helping our city, which we love, and now let's all come together and see if we can help. Affordable housing.
I love this community, and my poor husband, I always say, oh my gosh, I didn't think I could meet another great person, and somebody else great has now come to me. And so I am so blessed. There's great people in the Midwest, but there is something about the people here that move and shake and make things happen. Yeah. And I'm humbled to be in the presence of them.
We are a part of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're awesome.
Thank you.
So thank you again. I appreciate it. Yeah.
My
thank
pleasure.
you.
The Hometown Jacks podcast is recorded and produced by First Coast Mortgage Funding, located in the heart of Jacksonville. Do you want to be our next guest? Visit our website at hometownjackspodcast.com. We can't wait to hear your story.